Today, we're going to dive into something pretty much everyone goes through, that really exciting, kind of confusing, and let's be honest, sometimes totally overwhelming world of teenage crushes and first relationships.
So let me ask you something. Have you ever, just been sitting there and caught yourself smiling like an idiot just because you were thinking about someone special? Yeah, I think we've all been there.
And look, that feeling, it is 100% normal. It's a huge part of growing up. But as awesome as it feels, it can also be super confusing, right? It can lead to some pretty wild mood swings and a whole lot of overthinking. So, what do you do with all that? Well, here's our game plan. First, we're going to talk about those feelings and why they're okay. Then, we'll introduce a really powerful solution: boundaries. We'll get into the different types, how to actually talk about them, and then wrap up with why this is such a game-changing skill for your whole life. Okay, so first things first, let's just take a moment to acknowledge these feelings. They're not just valid, they're actually a super important part of your emotional journey. So, what really is a teenage crush? Well, it's this powerful mix of really admiring someone and just wanting to be near them, to share things with them. It's a key part of puberty, and it's basically your brain learning how to form deeper connections. The main takeaway here is that these feelings are real and important, not something to just brush off. All right, so we've established these feelings are totally normal, but how do we handle them in a way that's actually healthy? The answer, my friends, is all about one powerful idea: personal boundaries. So what in the world are boundaries? Just think of them as your own personal rule book. They're the guidelines you set up to make sure you feel safe and comfortable in your relationships. And this is so important. This isn't about being restrictive or mean. It's actually a form of self-care. It's how you show respect for yourself. And hey, don't just take my word for it. As clinical psychologist Hilda Rosa Ainea says, when you have clear boundaries, it's just plain harder for someone to treat you badly. They're like your own personal force field, protecting you from getting pushed into situations you're not comfortable with. Okay, let's get practical. Boundaries can sound like this big, vague idea, but they actually break down into a few key areas of any relationship. First up, and this one is a biggie, time. Being in a relationship doesn't mean you suddenly have to spend every waking moment together or be texting 24/7. You have to have space to breathe. It's so important to protect your time for your schoolwork, your hobbies, and especially your friends and family. A healthy relationship should add to your life, not become your entire life. That right there, that's what balance is all about. Next, let's talk about something that's super important: physical boundaries. This is all about what makes you comfortable. And listen, it's different for every single person. The number one rule here, the only rule that really matters, is consent and respect. It doesn't matter if it's holding hands or anything else, both people have to be 100% on board. You get to decide what's okay for your body. And let's be crystal clear, violence is a hard line that is never, ever acceptable, period. And of course, we have to talk about the digital world, because in this day and age, setting boundaries on social media is just as critical as setting them in person. This all comes down to trust, not control. You shouldn't have to share passwords to prove you trust someone. You both need to feel good about what's being posted, without any pressure. Respecting that digital privacy is a huge sign of a healthy, trusting relationship. Okay, so we know what boundaries are, but how do you actually talk about them without it being super awkward? This can feel like the hardest part, but it is absolutely the most important step. And this is really a team effort. For teens, the trick is using those I statements. So instead of, "you always do this," you say, "I feel uncomfortable when." It's about your feelings, not blaming them. And for any parents tuning in, your job is to listen. Just listen without jumping in to judge. When you make it a safe space to talk, you're building a foundation of trust that is priceless. So why does all this matter so much? Why are we digging this deep? Because learning how to do this now as a teenager is a skill that is going to serve you for your entire life. I want to be really clear here. This is so much more than just dating advice for a high school crush. This is about learning how to value yourself, how to understand your own emotions, and how to build the blueprint for every healthy relationship you'll have in the future. And the data on this is just, wow, it's pretty staggering. One study found that when parents actually help their kids understand these values and boundaries, an incredible 95% of those teens avoided sexual situations they just weren't ready for. That's the power of this skill right there in action. So yeah, the long-term payoff is massive. You basically develop a built-in radar for unhealthy situations. Your confidence and self-respect just skyrocket because you know what you deserve. And best of all, you learn that relationships are supposed to be a source of support, not stress. They should add to your life, not take away from it. At the end of the day, setting a boundary is a deep, powerful act of self-respect. It's you telling yourself and the world how you deserve to be treated. So I'm going to leave you with this to think about. What's the one most important boundary that you need to set for yourself right now?